Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back. I have a layout today. I'm playing along with Mixed Media Mayhem, and this was the image we were provided to be inspired by. And so here's my layout. And if you saw that image of the junk journal cover, there were layers upon layers upon layers of different textures and colors, and so that is basically the inspiration that I took from it. So the first part that you saw was me using a stencil from Scrapping Reflections and using a mica spray from Tim Holtz. And of course, this was my first attempt to try and do a stencil print. And the first one, I was kind of like, didn't turn out great. Second one's a little bit better, that we will see if I use that in a future layout. But so there was my first layer. Here is another layer that I'm taking 2 or 3 different stencils and using some blue colored inks and black colored inks through several different stencils that I have. And so I have this sparkle one, and I'm just using my blending brushes and kind of adding it in multiple places around the layout. Once I get all my pictures and everything on, I do go back towards the end and add a few more areas of that last stencil that you saw with those, I guess I'm going to call them like sparkles or like diamonds. And to add just to kind of fill in a couple other areas on the layout here. So, but this is just the beginning of what I'm starting on. So here I decide to jump to the photos and try to, so I can move them around all as a single unit and do my wetter mixed media that I want to do. So my next step of layers is going to be using some stencil butter to add more textured stenciling with some additional stencils that I have. So these are the 4 pictures that, this is one of the last layouts that I have left for Destin. And this is documenting the night that 3 of my nieces decided to go out on the town. And so they ended up at Coyote Ugly in Destin, Florida. And so these are a few of the pictures of their adventure. Now, eventually I'll get to the journaling on this, and I'll talk about that a little bit more here later when I get to that part. So here I had gone through some of my 49 Market ephemera from, I think, Front Porch, and some of the red might be from Spectrum Gardenia. But I think most of it happened to be from the Front Porch collection. So there, that red heart, I am using that to try and cover up a lady's head that was in the back right underneath my niece's arm. And it looked very distorted, which the 2 pictures of just Annie and Allie with the 2 of them in there look a little distorted. So I don't know if that was maybe from a video and those were screenshots. I don't know. Anyway, so the lady's face looked really weird, and we don't know who she is. So I just decided to try and find a way to cover that up. And so now that I have the base layers of my ephemera, I am just adding adhesive to add them to the picture layer, but not to the background, because again, I want to know kind of the final outline of the entire photo cluster. So the photos and then each of the 3 clusters that go around the entire area. So then I can plan out the other texture paste that I want to use on the background with, and make sure that it peeks out basically where I want it to. So I can bring this big piece back in over the top and determine where I want my stenciling to go. So that's why I am kind of starting from the top and taking my layers down. And so here, now that I've got most of the base built for that entire cluster, that I do take my pencil and draw around the entire cluster. And so these are the navy blue stencil butter and the Tim Holtz Ranger black distress texture paste. And so now I'm just adding some of the black around several different places on my layout here. So there is the first one. So there you can see that I'm making sure that it is landing where I want it to, and looking to see where I want the next section to add my paste. So just using my palette knife, pushing a little bit of that through the stencil here, and I don't work it too hard into the stencil because I don't want it to spread underneath. You will see when I get to the blue that after about the third or fourth time that I pick up the stencil and move it, that I do have more, I guess I could stencil spread underneath the stencil, as well as it gets a little more blobby because I've got the stencil butter stuck within the little grooves of that stencil. So there you can see that one looks pretty clean. And here is where I'm gonna put the second section here. And again, I'm trying not to spread it around too much, but I don't want it to be too thick either. So once I spread it to cover the entire area, then I do try and pull some of that off. There is where you can see that I did start to get some stencil spread already. What might have helped is if I had gone and cleaned my stencil in between each of the applications, but I was too lazy. So, I'm just going to deal with the spread going on there. So, and I probably wouldn't have needed to clean it all the way, but yeah, I could have just like wiped off the globs. So there you can see I'm adding a little bit more of those sparkles. And of course, I got some of the wet texture paste on the back of my stencil as I was trying to do that. So I think I gave up and decided I would go back and do that later. So now I have come back, and actually the stenciling I did one evening, and then I came back and finished the layout either the next night or, well, just the next time that I was able to get back into my craft room for long enough to get this finished. So now I'm just adding in all the little bits and pieces that I had pulled out and that I knew I wanted to add, and possibly add some dimension as well. So a little tab that goes there at the top, and this little it's a laser cut, but it actually looks like it's a button. Same thing with that heart that I just added as well. That couple of these little tiny buttons, I decided it was time to get those onto a layout as well, so they got used instead of lost. And adding that shears die laser cut as well. And so I didn't get around to telling you about the journaling, but I did have a little FOMO that I was missing out on that night that they did invite me to go. However, when they arrived home at 4 a.m., I no longer had FOMO of missing out of the fun that they had. So anyway, here are the close-up shots. If you have any questions for me, leave those down below. And thank you for stopping by, and we will see you next time. Bye.